So we're going to start this evening with a public hearing, and I'll turn that over to Nick.
So the state completed their floodplain mapping. The city is now required to adopt that map through ordinance. I had to post in the paper the notice of the public hearing 20 days ago, and then the last council meeting we had, I went through all the changes and things like that, and the adoption of things and how all that would work. So I don't know if anybody has questions, they're welcome to ask.
Do we have any questions from the audience on the floodplain management changes? Does anybody up here have any questions? Okay, do I hear a motion to adopt this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the floodplain management ordinance as presented. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries 6-0.
That's ordinance 2256.
Okay, start out with the public comment period. Ryan McDonald's number one on our list.
If the mayor would oblige me, I'd like to reserve my comments for new business to discuss the building trades board recommendations.
Certainly, that'll be fine. Okay. Rick Farr?
Oh, yes. I was just wanting to see if we can get a little bit of background information on the new city inspector, or if he was going to hold any special meetings with a lot of the people in the trade, kind of go over and introduce himself and kind of go over some things then too.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so his name's Dan Drew. He's worked for Jones Electric. He's worked up at Fort Riley. He's actually the special products manager right now at US Stone. He's responsible for all the OSHA and all that stuff out there. He'll start on the 15th, if appointed. And we're working with Larry. Larry's going to work with him to get up to speed on city things, city lakes, city stuff. Because Larry has a pretty good background in that. So we're still working with Larry to kind of pin that down. So,
Okay. Well, working for Jones Electric is a big plus for
Yep.
me, so
Yep.
that says a lot, so.
yeah, so he has a good background. So we actually had 3 really good candidates for the position. So
We did. We interviewed three really good people. Do you have any specific questions about?
No.
he's obviously Ricky's going to have a learning curve coming in, and there's a lot to learn. You know, and one of the requirements he has is being hired is he has to get certified and everything. So, and he's agreed to do all those things. So,
Well, as far as electrical is probably one of the hardest trades to inspect and or do, and
yep.
I mean, we run into that on even our CU classes that we go to every year.
Mm-hmm.
And we're dealing with inspectors that have been in the electrical field for 30 years and still in the inspection system now. And interpretation of the code is really, really hard. So,
Yep. Yep.
well, no, that sounds good, especially since he worked for Jones Electric. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
okay.
So, all right.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
As you said, we had a hard time making a decision. We had really good applicants. Okay. Being no more public comment, we will move on to the consent agenda, which includes minutes from our previous meeting, our appropriations, and there being no lake cabin transfers. Do I hear a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, Sharon. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, Pete. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, into old business, we have the ordinance to change, to allow ducks follow-up on that. Have people heard from the community? I'll just start over here. Any of you?
Have had no one approach me about it, I guess.
Sharon, anybody?
I haven't. I personally think that if we've allowed chickens, that we ought to go ahead and, just because of the material that was presented to us the last time, we ought to consider it and go ahead. It's my opinion. But I haven't had anybody else respond to me.
I haven't had anybody respond to me, and I kind of feel about like Sharon does. If we're gonna have chickens, an equal number of ducks,
I've not had anyone, I've asked a few of my neighbors and such, and no outstanding opinions. The problem with chickens and ducks, I don't have an issue with, but the variance to the front yard location, I do have a problem with. I don't believe that's necessary for any. Chickens weren't allowed in the front yard, ducks shouldn't be allowed in the front yard, and I don't believe that rewriting that ordinance for the location should be necessary. I understand their issue in this particular one about no quote-unquote backyard. I believe there's more property on that. I believe they're renting it also. It's not an owner purchase, to my knowledge.
She did say that her landlord had approved it, so yes, it is a rental.
Okay, so now we're talking about something that's gonna be out next to the sidewalk, and 4-foot fences are all that are allowed in the front yard of a house, and there are other areas in the boundaries that the landlord owns over there that wouldn't have to be in front of the house. That would be my only issue with it. I know I discussed some of the issues over the eggs, people not being able to eat chicken eggs. Okay, all people cannot eat duck eggs either. Just to make that point. There are people allergic to duck eggs that cannot eat them, just as there are people allergic to chicken eggs. So, I guess that was my comments. I personally don't know that I would like a flock of ducks in my neighbor's front yard next to me, being in that situation. I understand that she doesn't have, or the requester does not have any neighbors close. The railroad track is on one side, and as I say, the lot's vacant clear to the alley going south. I guess that would be my only comments on it.
Okay, thank you. Mark Burner?
I think I would just concur with what Larry said, Mr. Seegers, with his position, with the city. He's very informed with the ordinances and everything, and he's probably the expert on that as far as being around town, just knowing what people think and feel and hear. If I had to make a vote, I'd probably vote against it. Probably more because where do we go from ducks? Do we go to peacocks or other things that you see in? There's a peacock running around Harrington right now. So, but I'm open if the council is for this. I would probably just agree with Larry that having them in the front yard probably wouldn't be in our best interest or our neighbors' best interest.
John, do you have anything to say?
I'm ready to vote.
Okay. How about you, Keith?
I personally have not had anybody contact me about it. I have not received any feedback. Personally, I am not in favor of it. Just, I think people have certain expectations of what to expect in living in the city limits, and I think this just opens up a can of worms for future.
Okay.
Is that regarding the placement of it or ducks in general?
I think it, well, I definitely think that front yard's out of the question, yeah. But I think it also opens up, like Councilman Berner said, where do you stop, what's next, and it's, like I said, I just think people have a certain expectation of what they might be living next to or may show up next door or in the front or back or wherever.
Well, at this time, does anybody have a motion to make for or against the, wait, is there anybody in the audience who has anything to say about this?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Mark?
I'm not sure if the ordinance was changed when we pushed through the chicken ordinance, but I think originally it had one fowl, so a peacock could, if the ordinance has not been changed, could be in there. So you might want to readdress that entire ordinance if you're concerned about peacocks or
Okay, thank you.
ostriches or whatever else.
Llamas, whatever. Okay,
What is the history on how chickens got approved in town?
I'm here for it. So
That was,
it's been a while back.
yeah, I was the one that really pushed for that. I have children that live in large metropolitan cities that allow chickens. It's become kind of a grassroots thing where people are raising their own chickens. And I thought it was ridiculous that here out in rural America, we couldn't have chickens. And so I pushed for that. I did put in a stipulation when I pushed it, no roosters allowed. And the council agreed to limit it to 4 chickens. And strict codes of where the pen and it had to be approved and so on. But that's the history on that.
Thanks.
So if anybody wants to make a motion to change it, to leave it as it is, or to,
I'll make a motion that we approve to allow ducks to include as well as chickens, but that it has to be not in the front yard, but to fit the requirements of the locations that we put in the provisions for the chicken ordinance.
One second.
Well, I'm not sure if the current ordinance has that, but it used to.
okay, so we would be, Bill, I'm gonna lean on you on this. Would we be changing the ordinance, or would we be
you'd be adding.
Yeah, basically
amending
be
it?
amending.
Amending, okay.
Yeah,
Very good.
amending the ordinance.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to amend our current ordinance to allow ducks along with the chickens, but not in yards where, outside yards and front yards.
Follow the same rules
Yeah,
as chickens.
same rules. Okay. All those in favor of the change? Opposed? Okay, motion's denied 2-4. Okay. Moving on, new business, Aaron Doty.
Good evening.
Hi.
Thanks for the opportunity to be here today. I'm coming before you to ask and inquire about a partnership. I visited with Nick and Chief Wangren about this and sent some information which he shared with you. The state of Kansas and KSD has opened up what they call a Safe and Secure Schools grant program. It's been done before. It's been paused for a while due to financial issues, and now they've allocated $5 million to it this year again for schools in the state of Kansas, which $5 million sounds like a lot, but it's not. It goes pretty quick. Part of the Safe and Secure School grants, you can use it to secure entrances, which we did partly when we bid the new entrance in the elementary school, was part of that with this Department of Justice grant. Camera upgrades, so if we do have a crisis situation, we have remote access to cameras and messaging systems within our school system. So we've done those things over the last 4 years. What I'm inquiring about now is part of the grant allows you to employ an SRO, or a school resource officer, which is basically a police officer for the school district. This grant is a 50-50 matching grant, and so that's why I reached out to the city to see if there would be any idea or desire to partner together, because I think there's multiple avenues that are tangible benefits to both of us. First of all, the idea of just having a police officer presence for safety is huge, but it goes way beyond that. The idea of building relationships, having an officer in the school system interacting with kids, so kids understand that the police are good people, they're our friends, even though they have to sometimes deal with bad people doing bad things, that they have a job to do, and build those relationships and break down some of those barriers that we currently have with some of our households and so forth with our kids in school. So a lot of tangible things. So I shared with Nick, and I'm sure he shared with you, this first part is the budget side of things. It is a 50-50 matching grant, so we use the hourly wage of $23.50 for an 8-hour school day, multiply that out times 186 school days, and then added 12 additional contract days for some planning and collaboration time and training time, which amounts to $37,224. Then you add your payroll taxes and fringe benefits and so forth on there, which is additional $13,200 for a total of $53,272. So that's half of that is $26,636. So now that is the maximum amount that we use the hourly wage for. Obviously, there's some logistics there on the officer assigned and what that officer's hourly wage is. So what I'm asking to see if there is, in having a discussion about, is the desire is to partner with the city. We would basically then take and apply for, if you're all in favor of this and our Board of Education is in favor of this, apply for this grant and take the $26,636 and reimburse the city for that portion of the officer's wages. So there is a cost, it's an opportunity cost. You're paying that officer already, so there's an opportunity cost though in time and allocation of personnel. So while there won't be a financial cost to you, and it actually will be a little bit of a reimbursement, there's the opportunity cost of one officer now is assigned to a school district instead of out maybe patrolling. We talked to Nick and Sean about there has to be an MOU in place, and I think there's plenty of room and latitude to design MOUs. Like if there's an emergency and that officer needs to be called out to help with something, to leave and go do that on a city business, you know. I mean, there's all kinds of latitude to work together on those things, to partner and make sure that there's still a resource available if the police chief needs something and has an emergency or crisis situation where he can call out that officer to assist and aid in those situations without a problem. So I did put together some measurable outcomes that are common amongst school resource officers. I don't know, is that, you still have that slide? Okay.
Yeah, that was my name.
You have it in front of you? Okay. So that second paragraph, and I'll just kind of read through them so those watching at home in the audience can hear it too. And these are flexible and fluid. Some of these may not be palatable due to the timeline and constraints, and some of these things we already have in place. It's just tweaking in and getting that SRO on board to help facilitate some of these things. Because we have crisis plans and crisis response plans and a crisis team in place, but the SRO officer would just be a big piece of facilitating that and bringing some things together and some collaboration amongst trainings with other entities and so forth. So one, the SRO will help to investigate allegations of criminal incidents per police department policies and procedures. Two, provide law enforcement and police services to the school and school grounds. Enforce state and local laws and ordinances. 4, make appropriate referrals to juvenile authorities or other governmental agencies. 5, work to prevent juvenile delinquency through close contact and positive relationships with students. 6, help to develop crime prevention programs and conduct security inspections to deter criminal activity or delinquent activities. 7, monitor crime statistics and work with local patrol officers and students together to design crime prevention strategies. So there's that partnership with students and families. 8, establish and maintain a close partnership with school administrators in order to provide a safe school environment. 9, assist school officials with their efforts to enforce Board of Education policies and procedures. 10, ensure school administrator safety by being present during school seizures, which may involve weapons, controlled substances, or in such cases where a student's emotional state may be elevated or at risk. 11, assist school administrators in emergency crisis planning and building security matters. 12, provide a course of training for school personnel in handling crisis situations. And 13, help develop a standardized response to all hazardous response plans in cooperation with local emergency responders. So basically what they already do, but just kind of tailoring it to what our school crisis plans are. And the police chief and the sheriff's officer are a valuable resource of ours already, who use our facilities for training and so forth. And so it just kind of brings this partnership to another level. The timeline is pretty tight turnaround. Unfortunately, they didn't open this up and put it out publicly until March 19th. It's due Friday. So it's one of those things where it's like hurry up and go. Our Board of Education hasn't had a chance to meet on it. They've been briefed on it and are in support of it tangibly through consensus building, but they have not voted to approve it yet. So what I've done is gather the information. We'll get it if you all are in agreement with this partnership. Go ahead and get it submitted. Of course, our board will have to approve it Monday night at their meeting, and then if we are awarded the grant, then we can accept it. If either party decides not to support, then we just don't have to accept the grant. But due to the timeline of the turnaround, we'll have to get it applied for by the end of the week.
Is this a multi-year?
No, so that's the other benefit of reaching out with the city. We're not guaranteed year to year, and so part of the partnership of benefit with the city is there's already an officer hired, so if we don't get it renewed next year, no one is getting let go and changing a life style or losing a job and having to look for employment again. So that's one benefit of not hiring our own and doing it, because it's not a year-to-year guarantee. Usually, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to ask, is there any additional training for an officer to be at the school as opposed to just through public sector?
No, that's a great question, Mark. Yes, I believe there is, and we would partner with that. I think there's an organization that helps train school resource officers, because there's some logistics we'd have to sit down and come up with. For instance, like during the school day, if they see someone breaking the law, right? If a student is doing something that's not appropriate, how do we handle that situation, right? There's a certain mechanism in the school system we handle that through, right? And so it's just not they go arrest that kid and take him downtown, right? So we work through the channels the educational way, not maybe how they would handle it out in the street, so to speak. So there's just some training that we'd all have to be on the same page where they come up together with. And so yeah, and part of that would be looking into some of those avenues, these organizations that train school resource officers, yeah. I don't know what those are, because I've never had the opportunity to look into that, because I've never had the opportunity to have a school resource officer. But I'm pretty sure they're out there.
We'll say that I've had 2 citizens this last week, in light of what has been going on, ask me what our plans are, what we, as a city, where we stand, and how we would handle situations that, like what have happened. So this is definitely timely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a phenomenal idea. And that's been my goal since day one, is to develop a better relationship with the school.
And to his credit, he has. We are in a very good place with the police and the county and sheriff, and so it can only get better, obviously. But we're very, very pleased with the partnership we have with them and the support that we provide to each other. It's just an unfortunate situation. We do have secure entrances, but at our high school, you have to be buzzed in and but once you're in, you don't have to funnel through an office like you do at the elementary school now, both elementary schools. And there's no way to change that, unfortunately, due to the structure of the building without some significant structural remodel because of the stair access to the second floors right there. The district previously has done things like put the film on the windows. It buys an extra minute or two for, so someone can't shatter the glass or shoot through it. It's not bulletproof glass, but it helps someone who's trying to gain access through that means. So a lot of, security access. So now if we have a crisis, the police or sheriff can have instant access via the internet to our camera system, so they can have eyes in our building from their cell phone. We have communication systems built in both buildings here, where we can common messaging and do alerts, both vocal and visual, with audio, text, and colors. And so there's a lot of things in place, but you can't replace the human element. And that's what an SRO brings, is that human element to build those relationships and to be a resource and to be in a classroom and talking with the kids or hanging out at lunch and eating with kids and just having those informal conversations that pay dividends down the road. So yeah, you can't replace the human element.
Could you give us a little picture? I mean, would that officer actually have an office there? On campus? Or?
So our plan would be, obviously they would need to spend time in all the buildings, but the main focus would be at the junior senior high schools, because that's where more of the needs are, just because of age. So the home base would be the high schools. These are all kind of just off the cuff thoughts, because we haven't sat down and put something together formally yet, but finding a place at the high school for a location and office for them to be their home base, but then also be able to go over to elementary school and spend some time. Go up to Alta Vista and spend some time at Prairie Heights. But the majority of the time would be spent here at the high school, junior, senior high school.
Okay, what questions? I've asked mine. Do you all have questions?
I just want to see if, Sean, do you have anything to
Not really, other than what he's already said. He pretty much covered everything. I think it'd be silly to pass up that opportunity. I think it's an incredible idea. And we're already kind of doing it anyway. We have guys going in there occasionally just to do walkthroughs and things like that. So we're just wanting to try to make it more official. I think it's a great idea, and I think we should do whatever we can do to take part in that.
Thank you.
Anybody have questions? Okay. Do I hear any motions concerning an SRO?
I'd make a motion that we go ahead and move forward with this so that they can do the grant request.
I'll second that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to go forward in a partnership with the school system to apply for the grant and work with them with a security resources officer. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Aaron.
Appreciate it. Okay, next up, gunfight on the Santa Fe Trail Committee request from Jan Siaka and Harry, and Marcus here.
Councilman, Madam Mayor, I'm here representing, this is Harry Maddox, part of the city's Santa Fe Trail Committee. And if you'll pass these around, those are some flyers for this year's gunfight. We have some requests. One is that the Washunga Day fencing be left up after Washunga Days so that we can take advantage of that being used. Same thing that we did last year. The second thing is we want to do a little different on the grand finale on the bank robbery on 100 block. We want to, on Friday evening, probably midnight or so, block off all the parking on the 100 block of Main. And there's going to be some wagons brought in for staging. So we request permission to do that. We also asked for barricades to be furnished and caution or yellow tape that could be used to block off that. And then after the gunfight, the barricade will be removed, and that will allow parking to resume in front of the stores or eateries on Main Street. And for the grand finale, the bank robbery, we would like to close down 100 and 200 block between 6:30 and 7:30, and also the north block of Neosho and the south block of Neosho during that gunfight to allow safety of participants, viewers, and the animals that will be part of the gunfight. It seems it's going to be bigger this year than it was last year. The response has been overwhelming with these reenactment groups. I think the last time we heard Doc said that we're up to 15 groups that will be encamped in Neosho Park. I guess permission hasn't been asked to use the park, has it?
It's not.
Okay, so I guess we need to ask that too. Permission to use the Neosho River Walk. We did have a couple incidents with a couple individuals last year, and I think they've been asked not to come back. And so we've been very careful about, making sure that the park is well taken care of. If they dig pits for their fires, they place the sod back in the ground and so forth. We're taking care of the porta potty situation. Our committee is arranging for that. It was a great success in our opinion last year, and we think that it will draw a tremendous amount of people into our community. Speaking with some of the shop owners in town, they felt that it was a bigger weekend for them than Washunga Days. Not that Washunga Days is anything bad, it's great. But it's all about getting those outside dollars into our community. And so I think that is everything on our list.
Yeah. We've got plenty of volunteers, so
yeah,
we have plenty of help this year.
We have created a volunteer Facebook page that people were asking for gatekeepers and souvenirs. We are also showing, as you can see on the brochure, on Friday night we will have some music in the amphitheater, and then we'll be showing a movie called Death Alley, a movie that was made here in Kansas about the Dalton gang in Coffeyville. We'll be showing that movie in the amphitheater.
Do you guys need the screen set up?
No, I think we are going to need the screen. Okay, I thought we were working on a screen. Okay, yes, we'll need the screen.
I've got a friend in that movie.
And then Saturday night at 7 o'clock will be the grand finale of the bank robbery, and there's some surprises that I can't go into that will be happening. But we like, the chief did a good job of detouring the traffic last year. We want to, like I say, we want to kind of open that area up to where we can get more people to actually get downtown and see it and be at a safe distance, because I don't know if you were there last year, but they do a demonstration where they take an aluminum can with those blanks and show what destruction can be happening if you're too close when they do that. So there's a lot of safety involved, in that. And each shooter that has been gone through safety will wear a particular ribbon, I understand, this year to show that they have done the training and they know what they're doing. So it's going to be loud. There's going to be a lot of smoke.
The gunfighting actually starts at what time? The actual
Probably at 9 o'clock Friday morning.
9 o'clock Friday morning or
Yeah.
Saturday morning?
Both days.
Mornings, okay.
The day's activities. There's
Yeah,
2
they're
full days of
competing.
activities.
These groups
Okay.
are coming in and they'll do a little act, a little shootout. Somebody gets mad or somebody's drunk or whatever, and they'll do this shootout and they're judged. There's judges there and they're vying for prize money.
Okay, and that is on the Riverwalk?
Yes.
Okay. So when is it actually on Main Street?
7 o'clock Saturday evening.
Okay.
It'll probably take them a little bit to get set up. That's why we are asking for the 6:30, because we have to move wagons in. There's going to be a stagecoach. That's another thing we need to ask about. We're going to be giving, there's going to be a stagecoach in town not giving rides, but you'll have to pay. There'll be rides going through town with stagecoach. And so we need permission to have animals, pulling wagons on Main Street and the side streets.
We need to work out the route.
Yeah, we're still working on that. Naturally, we'll clean up after the animals, afterwards and so on. But during the gunfight, there's going to be some animals, wagons, stagecoach too. They need plenty of time to get in place. The Fort Riley Cavalry is going to be here again this year. We have Buffalo Soldiers coming in. We have another celebrity coming in, Peter Sirocca.
Soraka.
Yeah, he was in Tombstone with Buck Taylor. In fact, they were both in the same scene together, and so he will be our celebrity here this year. So, and if it's anything like Buck brought in a lot of people just to see Buck Taylor. So we're hoping that that will happen again. The prices are on the flyers. We feel that they're decent prices for the entertainment that you get for a whole day. Come for the whole day and you can watch a movie, get music, and we'll have vendors, food vendors, drink vendors. And we're doing something different this year. We're giving vouchers to all our volunteers and our reenactors that they can go into our local eateries and eat, and then we'll reimburse those eateries. So we're trying to get people into our eateries in town. So, can you think of anything else, Harry?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. Will we have to contact the state
Yes.
to close that?
We did last year.
Okay.
And I think I still have the letter that I sent to the state last year.
Okay, well then we'll take care of that.
And
Yeah.
Joe Alex, who you sent.
Yeah. So the first step is getting permission here.
I'd just like to say that I think it's a great event, and I've heard really good things about it. I'm glad you guys are doing it again. It's nice to do it.
A lot of work.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I can tell. The one thing that I have been stopped several times since this has all gotten out is the concern having Saturday morning having Main Street parking blocked off. That they don't understand, some of the merchants don't understand why that can't happen at like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, as opposed to, and with signage or something that says, this, you need to move by 3 o'clock or you subject to tow.
That's the
You know,
nightmare of trying to find that driver of that car.
Yeah.
They may be on the Riverwalk Park or whatever, and we've discussed it. I felt like it was going to be a real problem trying to shut it down in the middle of the day. You might find everybody but one car, or so. My understanding is there's been the Hayes House has been talked to. They don't mind, and they're probably the biggest shop on that block as far as anything that's open.
Well,
so,
3 others on that block have talked to me about their concern about it.
Oh, really?
And I don't know if they've talked to any of you all, but they've talked to me, stopped me and talked to me. And they suggested maybe doing it, like I said, some kind of signage that says, please remove your car by 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whatever. Or also just blocking off the south side, the south half, on the south side of the street, as opposed to the north side of the street, because none of those businesses are actually open selling anything except Aldrich until noon, and that's mostly drive-through.
Right.
So that's just, those are some things I want to throw out there because these merchants are concerned about it, and they understand the 4 o'clock or maybe even the 3 o'clock, but they, are concerned about their business for that first.
Well,
half
we
of
can
the
go
day.
back to the committee and try to work something out, but I mean, that's the recommendation of our committee is that we feel like there's going to be probably 120 gunfighters up there on Main Street, and so they need this ample room, and there's going to be wagons staged where the cars are parked, so we're basically kind of staging the Main Street for this. And I just think it'll be a nightmare to try to find the people who park their vehicles there.
So it would be Friday night from 9 o'clock, you would basically try to shut
Well, we'd probably go down at midnight or 10 o'clock. Yeah, after Hayes House is shut down and everybody, we would wait until then.
And then at 7 o'clock the next night.
As soon as the gunfight's over, we
Clear
would
it out.
clear it
We'll
out.
clear it out, yeah. Now, one thing that we might be able to bring out is to have Jan put something in the paper warning people that part would be shut down, if you would think about that.
The problem is we could have out-of-town people park there.
To me,
Well,
it's no
but it'd be-
different than when we used to shut down parking on Main Street for vendors during Washunga days.
Right.
It was no different than that. And then we had the whole street, it was a great atmosphere.
Yeah, at that point it was 3 blocks, the 100,
Yes.
200, and 300 block that was shut down.
How did you guys block it off? Because if we use the barricades down at the Riverwalk, which is where they'll be out after Washunga days, we don't have more to then put on Main Street.
Okay, is there just some that we could stretch yellow tape between?
They'll be all being used at the Riverwalk.
Oh, they're all
Yes, we all use all of them at the Riverwalk for Washunga days. And you guys are wanting those left there.
Well,
No, I'm talking about
Just
not
street
the
barricades.
fence,
Okay.
the barricade,
The orange
Oh,
and
the
white.
orange ones, yeah,
The
we
wooden
don't, I don't know, we have,
the wooden
yeah,
ones?
we have those.
That's what I meant, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I wasn't clear on those.
Okay.
Like what
So-
the street department uses to block off the street.
Yeah, I didn't think.
And we could, I was thinking we could stage those so many along the parking, then we could stretch yellow tape between
Gotcha.
them.
That makes sense.
And then, like I say, then we would remove them after the gunfight is over and allow people to come back in. Might take a while for them to be able to see because the smoke will hang there for quite a while, but
Mark, you might talk to the USD 417, they have that parking lot where the buses are. Maybe they could work with you to provide some alternative parking there too.
well, the school has lots of parking, and I think we are going to ask permission from them for the reenactors to park down there, and it's the way I look at it, Mayor, it's no different when they had that famous country western singer here for Washunga Days, and they had 15,000 people in town. They found a place to park, right?
Have you guys got have you thought about doing any like transportation from the schools?
We
to
haven't.
over to downtown?
But it's really only a block and a half,
Yeah.
or stretching it at 2 for people to walk. And the River Brewery is going to sell, they're supposed to be talking to you guys about getting the permits. They're going to be selling beer Friday evening during the movie. And that's the only time that we want to really kind of keep it family friendly, but we wanted to also have an opportunity for those that wanted to maybe to have a beer during the movie. And that's all we're doing. And they're supposed to be taking care of all the permits through the city, my understanding correct on that.
Yeah.
So,
I haven't heard from them yet.
okay, we'll remind them that they have to.
Things, they're probably a little busy right now with the others.
Yeah, they probably have their hands full with Washunga Days, so.
I have just repeated what has been told to me. I mean, and that's certainly up to the council what you want to do. I know that those 3 for sure have been concerned. And one outside of that block, but I've heard from basically 4. So I just,
we do.
I put their concerns out there. So.
And I understand,
Yeah.
but sometimes the bigger picture, if we can get people into their shops during the day, I think that's the most important thing, and this event will do that. And I think sometimes a little inconvenience has to be put up with.
Yeah, it's not that far to find a parking spot a block away,
Yeah.
half a block, so.
Well, the foot traffic was incredible last year with that event. There was a ton of people that flooded Main Street a couple hours before the gunfight even started.
Exactly.
So I mean, you bring in, you get the good with the bad, I guess, but to me, the good outweighs the bad on that situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun-filled day from 9 o'clock till, all day. I mean, these gunfights are gonna be going on all day long. And there's other activities, as you can see there's other activities for people to do. It's not just the gunfight too, so.
Okay. Anybody have anything else to say? Do I hear a motion concerning I guess we could lump all of this together, the stagecoach ride permission and the use of the amphitheater, use of the park. You've already, because you haven't asked to use the amphitheater yet.
No, I kind of thrown that in
All
with the
together?
park too,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, the use of the.
We want it all.
Yeah, use of the amphitheater, use of the park, do the barricades, block the parking on North and South Neosho for the times that are listed here, and the 100 block of Main Street, both north and south sides. So somebody can make that motion, or they can motion whatever they wish.
Didn't you have a 200 block in there too?
That's during the gunfight, but we're not blocking off the parking.
Okay.
During the gunfight, we want the 100 and 200, because I think the chief will probably take them, I'm assuming up Mission Street, Hockaday to Mission, is that? Okay, yeah. So
Yeah, they handled it last year.
block the 200 block off so that people can actually walk out in the street and view the gunfight and have a safe distance away where they don't get hurt.
Take advantage of you being here, Sean. Is there any traffic issues that you see with any of it?
Not really. I mean, I do see where they're coming from. I obviously attended last year to help with traffic control, and it was a great event. It was very enjoyable. That was the main hang up with the event, was the difficulty in seeing. So I do see that part.
Okay.
But as far as all the traffic, we'll do what we need to do.
Okay, great.
And the viewing part, as the chief said, removing those cars will open up more viewing for people to actually see, not looking over the top of a van or a truck or whatever. I mean, it just kind of opening it up a little bit for the viewing too.
I'm gonna bring up something, well, I'll just talk to you guys about it a little later.
Okay.
It's doesn't have to be done here.
I'd make a motion that we approve the gunfight on Santa Fe Trail and their request.
I'll second it.
I'm glad you did that, because I was going to try to go down through that whole list.
Yeah, sometimes it's just say so many.
Package deal.
Okay, anybody have any more concerns before we vote? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, council.
guys.
Thank you guys for
Thank
what
you,
you're
Mayor.
doing. It's gonna be a great event, thank you.
This is something I'm enjoying, is walking out here now.
Chris, we had to start.
Thank you guys.
Great job.
See it over here, so I don't forget it. Okay, next, City Lake recommendation, Mark and Bill McGee, J18.
So James, who's no longer here, but Larry and Keith went out there and looked at it again. This has been before us before. They changed the location a little bit of where it's going to go. And the committee recommends the council deny a boundary line adjustment request of 96.5 feet for a 40 by 60 storage shed. Mark and Billy McGee are both in attendance. I don't know if they have anything they want to say.
Okay. Yeah. You have some? Sure.
Yes. Yeah, I've been working with James for quite a while, made a couple of property line extension requests, and I think initially I really didn't understand the whole process and what all was involved, because where we're at J18, there's essentially what it would equate to, I think, about 3 lots, Larry, in between us and
14 to 18, so it'd be 15, 16, 17.
yeah, so those lots there have been deemed unbuildable and residential because of the cliff drop off, I assume. So initially I thought, okay, well, we can go halfway over. This is a large structure. You know, we pay to come out and they look at it. We pay for the revision of the lease. and then we would pay extra on our rent payments or our lease payments for the property. And then after that was denied, no, it needs to be over closer. So extra payments, new leases aren't a thing. I don't know if you would consider, since that land is deemed non-residential, you know, an exception, if you will, to allow us to move that property extension over to the original request and pay the extra monies in the lease. You get the extra tax money, the property tax money off of that, and the lease money. I don't know if that would be a consideration. If not, then I guess I need some guidance, help further, because talking to James when we moved this thing clear over to our property line, he thought it was going to be good this time, so I guess first off I would ask, would you consider, you know, the additional monies and lease payments to go over and move the extension over in that property that's...
So you're basically saying an additional lease for
At least I have.
Well, I don't know if it'd be an additional lease or just a property extension, and when we redo the lease to show the new property, we say, okay.
Extension, because that's not been surveyed, it's not been platted.
Then we would just pay the extra in rent monies, you know, based on what
11 cents a square foot is what the additional is set up for right now. And it is for the purpose of adding garages and sheds and things, using the minimum amount necessary. And I guess that's kind of what's getting in there. It has no bearing on whether the lots, the city has stopped leasing any new lots years ago. They passed an ordinance, there will be no more new leases out at the lake. The ones that are there are it. Even unbuilt or not, they will not ever be leases unless the council would have to change all of that back again to allow leases to be plotted and sold. But the main thing, I guess, was bothering me and Keith was the keyword minimum amount necessary. And when I was out there, I thought we'd expressed ourselves that instead of running lengthwise with the access road, if you could turn it the other way, so instead of the, what, 100 and some feet here?
96.5.
Yeah, 96.5, you could cut that in half and draw it down so that you were 50, what your building you wanted was 50 feet.
Yeah, it was 30 by 50 at first, and when we had to rotate it and door placement and everything, we had to go a little bit bigger to work it out. But yeah, if we spun it that way, it's a little bit different in that our front door is kind of on that side of the house, the east side, our large deck where everybody gathers, and the view of the lake is right off of there. So if we run it like that right up to the property line, we would have to remove 2 mature trees that overhang that. And that building would be into that actual deck. So, you know, if it was on the other side of the building, the house, you know, great. But being there, you know, we have a little bit of leeway where we didn't have to trash the trees. We already would have to move several, moving it up as close to where we were.
But that was our main concern, was the amount of land that could be narrowed down if the building were rotated.
Larry, are those lots that are not basically for sale anymore, are they considered commons?
Yes, they're city commons.
So one thing to consider here is that Larry Catlin, or Gary Catlin, remember Keith, a couple years ago, had asked to build on commons, and we denied that.
It's propane tank. moving that stuff
Yeah,
over.
so I'm keeping in consideration, or in consistency with that, just with this here, just so I bring that up. Because we did deny Gary the ability to build on the commons area.
Right.
So to allow it now would be you know,
Could, like you said, open a can of worms to, there are a lot of commons areas.
Any boundary extension is gonna be on common grounds. All boundary extensions.
this was
have
a
been on
side
common
boundary,
Well,
into that park area.
Okay. We've only done one side boundary into common grounds prior to now. And that was over again, I-8.
What was the
No,
distance?
not over, where they had next to the dome cabin,
Oh,
Taylor.
yeah,
Was that,
Taylor's
was it Jay?
built their house on, and his extended sideways,
right.
50 feet.
There was nothing next to it, so the water lines.
But just the word commons grounds has no bearing on the boundaries. It has to do more with the structures that were allowed for the boundary extension. A boundary extension to set a propane tank is not the same as a boundary extension to build a garage or a shed or a structure, and that's the way.
It just seems that we had an issue with the side as opposed to the end cap extension.
No,
on
didn't
that.
have it with the end cap. They didn't want it in their sight. It was in view,
Right.
and that was their comments. And that's kind of where your storage building is blocking your view too, and other things. Is there any considerations of adjusting the size or anything, or you?
Yeah, we can. I just, in talking with James, he thought, you know, moving it there, he was good, he felt good about it. So, you know, he came out and spent 2 or 3 hours working with me, measuring it off, and we talked about all these different things, but obviously you don't feel good about it, so, you know, can we come to some agreement, whether that be, can we?
This is just our opinion, that council has the total say so.
The other thing to consider on it is we work on annexation, you build that structure there, then you have that whole lot that's, if we do something in the commons area, that's not sellable anymore. Because it will have that building on it, so that land won't be, unless they purchase it. Yeah. So that's the other thing you
Then it would
gotta-
just be us purchasing it the same as
so,
anybody else, right?
well, I mean, if we allowed it now, it's like 11 cents a square foot, as to where if you bought the whole lot, it'd be whatever.
But the 11 cents is like a one-time charge.
Yes, that's a
What I'm
one-time charge.
proposing is, okay, I pay the one-time charge to reset the lease, and however much it is per month per square foot for what we're paying now, take the new square footage, add up our lease. And not a new lease, but just,
But the lease doesn't allow for that, so the lease rate is set, and it can only be adjusted for certain reasons, and that's not one of them. So the lease is set, so we can't go in there and adjust just your lease rate, because the lease rate is set for every leasehold out the city like the same. So,
gotcha. So my really only other option is to move, change. I get some leeway to keep those trees there where it's shading that deck, and
Well, I'm sure you can.
yeah. You just have to come up with a different size and setup and flag it, and then
Configuration.
give us a call and we'll come look at it again. And that's kind of where we're at with it, I think, unless you guys want to vote on it and do something.
The other, just, excuse me, what would you consider a minimum amount of?
Well,
What
I'm
do you think it would
judging
amount to?
the minimum amount according to the size of the building.
Yeah, I was just curious. I wondered what it would be.
Okay. And the building, what'd you say, 40 by?
40 by 60.
60.
And
Okay,
it's,
so if you go 40,
uh-huh. Yeah,
you're down to less than half of that 96, or,
so that, and a lot of people
and
already
then
have
this would
garages
stay,
in front of their
then this
cabins,
would
is what you're
stay
thinking.
down here.
Right.
Yeah, they have a garage in the front of theirs also.
Oh, okay.
if you look at our lot in comparison to those others, it's like pie shape. So the back end of it is not near as wide, but since it's so crooked, if you will, that front section is 96.
So if you squared it.
Actually, the back end's 112 feet and this front end is 96.
Yeah.
Your back end is wider
See,
than the front.
You're talking back end away from the
The
lake.
front would double the
Back
frontage.
toward the lake is 112 feet, and the front toward the road is 96 feet. Your original boundaries are.
Yeah.
They're on these drawings.
But I mean, on the extension request, the back part is
Yeah.
minimal and the front part is wide.
Right.
Back
So,
row is 45.
you know, if you said that lot's square with the world with the other lots, it's really not as much, but.
Yeah, if you'd,
It's actually
Just
bigger than lots beside.
all we'd like is a little more respect to the minimum amount necessary for the construction you want to do. That's kind of the key on that whole thing. All of the other things are aside.
And this back part is a cliff, you said, right here.
Yes.
Okay. Which you, I think at one time Larry said that it actually is a buildable lot, but it just wouldn't have lakefront because it's on a cliff. Is that right?
But maybe-
Yeah, but you've also got some spots out there, where they built stairways down 3 flights of stairs
Down to
down
the lake.
to their dock at the lake. So, you know, the part unbuildable is
Depends on who's looking at it.
depends on how much money you've got and
How much money you
how much you want to build a set of steps down to the water.
And what you want.
Yes, exactly.
Well, and we were told when we purchased it, Larry, that those 3 lots would be uninhabitable. There would not be any houses built between us and the neighbors 3 lots over, so. I just need somewhere to put my pontoon boat I'm gonna get someday, so.
Yes.
Yeah, and actually when we bought the place, that driveway goes around there and the tree there, and there was a dog run, and we were told that was our lot, which, you know, as soon as we started doing remodeling and Larry came out and said, no, that's not, it's here. So, I mean, that's neither here nor there at this point, but.
But we did buy it with the intent of putting an outbuilding over there to store, you
Yeah.
know, a boat someday, have a wood shop area in there for Mark and different things. So yeah, it was really disappointing when first Larry came out and took his spray paint and said, nope.
Yeah, we were gonna do that more towards retirement, but our son is wanting to get married at the lake next summer, so that pushed up our schedule a little bit. We need a venue, so.
Well,
It's, as I say, it's still up to the council. This is
It's-
just an opinion, and you see by the drawings here. The trees, the view of the lake are neither.
I don't know if there's, it looks to me like there's got to be some kind of a solution if you were to maybe reconfigure the building a little bit, or I'm not a builder, so I don't understand all that. I mean, what are your all opinions?
Well, and I know when Larry and I were out there, we talked about if you went closer, like your driveway where it comes around there on the end. If you went closer and had it closer to that, so that your doors would face the road right there, you would be obviously not getting so far into your view out of the east side, looking out
Yeah,
over the lake.
we pushed it all the way as close to the road as we could and all the way towards the house without having to, I mean, still gonna have to chop out a lot of that one shade tree, but, yeah. I mean, we could pivot it and then you'll be sideways. I'm not sure how much, I don't have the drawing in front of me, but I can reconfigure it. Because when you pivot it, it'll have to come back from the road so far, and then that end towards the lake's gonna stick out more in front of the deck there. So maybe we gain a few feet, I don't know.
I think another concern that I had when I came out is that the building got bigger the second time. And then by going this direction, it made this towards the road out here, 96.6, but 40 by 60 is a pretty good sized building. I think wasn't the first round, wasn't it?
30 by
30 by
50.
50. Yeah, so when we turned it, we decided, okay, we still want the doors in this side facing the house. So we had to move the walk door around to that end to keep the same size of doors. We had to go wider. And then with the length of her pontoon boat, I need my wall space.
Is that about
That's the
3,000 square
problem,
foot?
Yeah.
It's about 3,000 square feet, 40 by 60. That's a big.
I'm just gonna ask a question here because I defer to you guys on most of this lake stuff because I don't know. Property that's across the street,
Commons, no,
it's commons area?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no structures have been allowed, built on commons in years, since before I was around.
It's been a really long time ago.
I appreciate your signature.
Those boats were dino powered.
Yeah, that's
right.
Do I hear any kind of, it sounds like we're kind of at an impasse here. Do I hear any kind of emotion?
It sounds like we maybe need to ask to try to do a little more
Thinking about it?
reconstruction there in terms of some possibilities.
Mhm.
I see what you're saying, and, you know, we like to accommodate, but at the same time, we have to be careful.
No, I understand. We just want to work something out that works without destroying our view and our shade trees.
Yeah, and that's the issue.
Yeah.
You're wanting the storage building, but you're wanting to keep your view and your trees too. Now, that really has no bearing on the way we have the property set up to be made available for your structure.
So how close to the existing property line? Is it 5 feet over? Or?
Yet, you're supposed to stay 5 feet within your boundary. The new boundary would be the same way. You'd set 5 feet inside of your new boundary.
I mean, can we get a little allowance there? Because I think the 5 feet's gonna take those trees. Because our deck, I don't know if you're seeing the picture there, but there's a walkway right next to the deck, and that is our boundary line. And the trees are right there on the other side of that walkway. So if we went 5 feet to that, you'd be chopping half of it off anyway.
There'd be flexibility with that. That's an easement is what that's for. And it's your outer boundary, it's not your inner boundary. See, if you get the additional property, you won't have that 5 foot where you do now.
You'll be continuous.
You'll be continuous out to where the new boundary
5
is.
foot on the east side.
So if you're thinking about the 5 foot there by chance, where your walkway and things are, see, that'll go away with any land that you add. That 5 foot will get transferred to the outer edge of the new boundary.
So we can come out
Yeah,
to
so
the
you'll
outside of those
lose that.
trees
So
and
you
start
get
the
that
structure
you'll
there
get
and then
that 5
go
foot
over.
back in there. All we'll do is transpose it to the outer limit. We wouldn't have a 5 foot strip through the center of your property, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I
Okay,
understand.
that goes away, so that,
I
you're
would just-
asking that leeway and stuff, there's 5 foot automatically you've got.
Can we,
What?
do you guys think you could come back with and rework that a little bit, maybe size? I mean, obviously, everyone out there would love to buy up some commons ground at that price, and we haven't allowed it in the past. Is that something you guys could reconfigure a little bit and minimize that? Just
Sure, I mean,
we
Would
can
be
work
willing
together
to
on it.
widen out the 45 foot at the lake end of this and narrow down the 96 feet and make it more rectangular instead of pie shaped.
Yeah, because I mean, we really are doubling the frontage of your lot there, and I understand why you would want to, because everybody wants a 40 by 60 shop instead of a smaller one, so I understand. But I think as far as being fair to everyone else, as well as the citizens of Council Grove using that commons ground for whatever we need it for, and in the future we may need it for, maybe if we could dwindle that down and come back and see us, because I think everybody here wants to help you guys out. We have discussed this, believe me, it's not the first time we've talked about it, so we're not trying to be bad guys.
No, I appreciate it. So,
Yeah, maybe
so
think it through and,
keep the property line parallel and just move it out.
Yeah, if you
Instead
can make
of
it
going
more
straight
uniform,
towards the front.
instead of the 45 you've got now, 45 foot down toward the water side, and then it expands out to 96 up by the roadside.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you can narrow the 96 down some, you could easily widen the 45 down by the lake. I know that's not gonna help you with your structure, but it would square it up so it'd be a rectangle instead of a pie shape.
Or 45 and a 45 up front.
Yeah.
Split that 96. I think you're not gonna you could almost fit your 40 by 60 in there. And excuse me, because I hit my button on my tablet and I lost my picture, so I'm having to go back and forth between these two. But turn the building, and I think you could almost squeeze it in there and not be as big though. And I understand you want to go bigger, but if you need a spot to park your boat, Keith will help you out. No. So,
I
yeah,
think if you could, why don't you consider it, redraw, think about it a little bit, and get back with the lake committee a little bit on it, so that they can make their recommendation back to us again, or recommend to you before we do this all over again.
So I should
Because-
file it again, or should I send it to
No,
like?
what you've got, you filed twice. So,
Yeah,
no, what you've provided us so far is fine.
just visit with, just keep them in the loop
Mhm.
of what you're thinking. So
Yeah,
that's-
just get a hold of me, 'cause since we don't have James here, I'm kind of,
Right.
I'll coordinate it with all those guys and we
Yeah.
can take a look at it.
So, because we have a new man coming on board, so.
Okay.
So then if we do the 30 by 50, are we gonna be able to move it further away from the deck than, I know you were wanting it like right there.
I think that's what they're saying, as long as we, instead of making it pie shaped, we go back there and.
Yeah, if you widen that 45 out, that'll allow you to move that end of it further away from the deck.
So the front by
This,
the
right.
road being so wide is the concern.
Yeah,
sounds like.
squeeze it up against that.
Their deck is just,
I mean, that's minimal, that's fair enough. That goes by the language we just had in
Although
place.
this is kind of a
I think we're
rectangle
talking about
all
this
together
instead of this.
Yeah.
right now.
Correct.
So
Only thing
basically,
is this, and this is definitely not buildable.
Yeah, which is
No,
still.
I disagree with it being buildable nowadays,
Thank you.
but I think, like I said, it's in there that we go minimal. So if we
So if this would
change
shove back a little
that to
bit,
right in there, you could squeeze in a smaller building. I just think
just move this back. a
40
little
by
bit.
60 is
yeah, you
Yeah, that is
you
pretty
can
big.
get it away from there.
Yeah, I think they're saying we can go out from the deck.
No.
We just need to bring that road.
Tell my wife I'm gonna be later.
Parallel.
Food one, honey.
Okay. All right, is that okay with you guys? Just visit about it and see
Yeah.
what we can, we'll try to work with you as much as.
No, we appreciate it. Thank you
Yeah.
for your time.
Thank you.
You still have to approve, deny, or approve the recommendation. That still has to be done, even though you asked me. to
the
come
current
back.
one.
Yes, the current one.
Okay.
Because on the agenda, that their recommendation is to deny it, what he's currently proposing.
Okay, so I guess I motion that we deny the current recommendation with Mr. McGee and Mrs. McGee going back and amending it to fit the needs that the council has set forth.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And I'm sorry, I called you Bill instead of Billy. I didn't see that extra I.
I'm used to it.
She answers.
Billy, Bobby's, you get the
Yeah.
Just about anything, right?
Guys, thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Guys,
much.
nice to see you.
What'd you do to your foot?
Oh, I tried to fly a four-wheeler uphill. It flipped me.
Oh, no.
Hope you get better.
Maybe she was kicking the wardrobe out to
Should be
this
an order
council.
there.
Yeah.
You got
Down
those?
there. Okay.
I gave you those appointments, the appointments list.
Yep, I'm looking for them here. I got them right here. Okay, police and fire recommendation, moving forward. Let's see. Police and Fire Committee recommend the appointment of Jonathan Mayhill to full-time Class A officer at a pay rate of $19.75 per hour effective June the 8th, 2022. Do I hear a motion to approve that appointment?
And Jonathan's already a part-time police officer, and he also
Yeah.
sheriff's deputy. So the background check and stuff like that doesn't need to be done.
Okay.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded to approve the appointment of moving Jonathan Mayhill to full-time. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, the next is ordinance.
Bill, you're up.
Yes,
I'm up.
Bill.
All right. We have proposed to you an ordinance establishing the qualifications for the city attorney and assistant city attorney. There is an existing ordinance, and basically this patterns that. The only real change in it was there was still some language left over requiring residency in Morris County, and so that's been eliminated for both positions. And other than that, it's precisely the same ordinance that exists on the books today. So I think ultimately the point here is that I'm leaving, and this will allow for a transition with a assistant city attorney for a month or so, whatever, I think until July 1 maybe. And thereafter, then it would go back to being just simply a single position. The provision that I think I want to make real clear here is that this will not cost you anything. Basically, I get paid between now and July 1, and it's up to me to work with Brian and figure out how I'm going to pay him for whatever he does. And then after July 1, then he'd of course be entitled to the city attorney's salary. So that's the point in that proposed ordinance.
Okay. So do I hear any questions concerning that ordinance? Change? Okay, do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion that we adopt the new ordinance establishing the qualifications of city attorney and assistant city attorney as in the packet.
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded to adopt the ordinance or change the ordinance establishing the qualifications of city attorney and assistant city attorney as put in on page 16 in our packet. All those in favor? Opposed?
And that ordinance is 2257.
Okay. Then the office committee. Recommends the appointment of Brian Henderson to assistant city attorney with expenses paid by the city attorney with no additional cost or expense to the city, effective July 1st, 2022. Mr. Henderson will take over the duties of city attorney at a pay rate of $2,600 monthly. Do I hear a motion concerning that? Jason?
Yes.
Second. And Sharon? All those in favor?
I think Mr. Henderson is here, and he can introduce himself.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Hey, Brian, come on up here.
I'm sorry.
Come on up. You should have been up here sitting.
I was waiting until it was time.
Yeah,
I am Brian Anderson. I've met some of you guys, and I'm excited to work with the rest of you. So, if you do pass the next agenda item, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. I know you met Keith and you met Jason.
Yes.
Sean,
But-
Teresa, myself, and you, and the mayor.
Yeah, okay, and then of course the others have name plates in front of them. Brian, just, go ahead and sit down, Brian. Just as a way of brief introduction, Brian has been here for several months. He came from Oklahoma where he'd been a prosecutor there for some number of years, and he also had served on city council in Sarah, Oklahoma,
Sarah, Oklahoma, yes.
which is a population of,
About 5,000, so fairly small.
so don't say that, that's big.
No, I'm saying.
Double what we are.
So I can appreciate that, the nature of what you guys are working with.
He also had served as a municipal court judge. I'm not sure if it was in the same community or not, but so he's got a wealth of municipal law background, both in the prosecution and even the judge side and having sat in your chair. So I think he'll do you a good job. His wife Molly, who's also a lawyer, is originally from Chase County, or at least her family is. You were married in the Chase County courthouse
We were.
20-some years ago.
About 19 years ago, yeah.
19 years ago, so, and has family here, and that's what brought him back, I think, maybe some illness in the family. So I think Brian will do you a good job. He's definitely easy to work with. He and I have had cases together in Chase County, and very easy to work with, and I'm pretty comfortable in recommending him to you. So,
We appreciate that.
Do you office in Chase County or?
I office in Lyon County in the old Citizens National Bank building down there, so I do most of my practice there and then a little bit of practice in Chase County as well.
I'm trying to talk you into scooting on in.
I know, yeah, there's
Morris
some
County.
openings
You guys
here.
have some need here, so.
Might have to come for the gunfight.
Well, that's what, it seems exciting.
Yeah.
I'll probably make my way over.
a lot of interesting things going on in this town.
We welcome you.
Welcome.
Thank you very
Bill,
much.
thank you for stepping up and taking the role for us.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's been a really good experience. I'm to that age where I'm wanting to get disengaged and get retired. I'm going to be 70 here before long, and it's just time to do it. And this is the first step in that direction. And so,
We didn't want to accept his resignation.
No, no.
well, I appreciate you saying that.
Well, we appreciate it.
Whether it's true or not, I appreciate you.
It is true. It is true. You can ask my grandson, I promise you I'd never lie.
Don't blame me, I'm the one that talked him into
Do
doing
yourself.
that, so.
But anyway, and welcome again.
Thank you.
Welcome, Brian.
Yeah. Okay, Buildings and Trade Board recommendations, ordinance amendment, and we have that in front of us.
There was a modification on that today. Did we get a copy?
Yep, I got the new copy to them.
This has a bit of a history. If you'll remember, it came to you one time before from the Building and Trades Committee with a recommendation that contained essentially all of what you're looking at. It was broken into two different ordinances, which we've combined it into one, although the provisions, it simply was a matter of blending the two together. They did make one adjustment with, what happened was it came to you and you rejected it, sent it back to the committee. They met again. They again ratified what they had proposed before, but added to that a request to make a framers subject to licensing, framing contractors subject to licensing, at the same rate and basically with the same provisions contained within the other disciplines. So this particular one that's come to you is the result of the final recommendation made after the second event. Now, there was some controversy before the committee. Ryan McDonald's here tonight. He was the one who objected to some of that. The reason it's taken so long to get this back before you is in part because there was a great deal of time pressure on it, because the provisions don't really go into effect until January 1st, so there was time to react, but also to give Ryan an opportunity to, if he wanted, to bring forward any other considerations or arguments or information or whatever. And it's been at least 2 months. I'm not sure if it hadn't even been longer than that.
About 3.
3 months? Okay. And at least I've heard nothing from him. I see he's here tonight, so he may have something he wants to say. That's up to him, of course. But they're really, I felt like we had given, 3 months was a sufficient period of time. And so it's back to you, and at this point, I think it just needs a decision.
First of all, does anybody up here have any thoughts or concerns, ideas? Okay, Ryan, would you like to speak?
I would, thank you. I've got two concerns, I guess, with this, and I'll try to keep it brief. I'm not going to rehash the whole deal, whether we should license framers or whether we shouldn't. That's what they decided. That's their recommendation to you. It's up to you whether you decide that's what you want to do. My concern with the framing contractor portion of this ordinance is that the only place that it mentions the framing contractors is in the price of the license. They did not modify section 4-105, which is the licensing categories. So they did not add the framing contractors as a licensing, as a category of license. And that section is what defines what a framing contractor can do and can't do. And so even though they've added a price for what the license costs, there's nothing in here that says what that framing contractor is. The other part, in kind of the same thing, is that in section 4-109 part B, where it talks about the standards that you have to meet to gain that license, they did not add anything for framers as far as the requirements that have to be met in order to get a license. That section lays out for the building contractors, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, the tests that you have to take and the scores you have to achieve to qualify for the license. But this ordinance does not lay out anything, any requirement for framers. So as far as adding that category of license, I don't think this ordinance kind of meets that standard. The second point that I'd like to bring up again is I posed the question to this group before on the requirements for continuing education. And the question I had for you that you sent back to the committee was whether or not the lack of requiring residential contractors to have continuing education, whether that was by accident or on purpose. And unfortunately, it was stated during the meeting that one of the members of the board said in public meeting that he just didn't want to have to do continuing education, so he voted not to include his license category. And I just think that's wrong. I would hope that you would consider that. If everybody else, has to do continuing ed, if I have to do it for a Class B license, if anybody with Class A or mechanical, plumbing, electrical, I find it hard to swallow that somebody excludes themselves from the requirements that they're making everybody else have to follow. So I would ask that you revise the ordinance if you're going to add the framing category to include the definition of what a framing license is and include what license requirements need to be met in order to get the license. And I would also ask that you add the residential contracting license to the list of continuing ed requirements.
The continued ed for what he's talking about, that was discussed at the meeting, and the board did not vote on that.
So there was a lot of discussion. Several of them said that they thought it should be all or none, but nobody would make a motion.
They never voted on it.
They didn't vote on it. They discussed it.
But it was discussed,
And
they chose not to vote on it.
So when was this ordinance, we put this on the docket for this evening
I mean,
to talk about this?
Yeah.
And go ahead and approve it.
Yep.
And so in the meantime, from the last time we talked about it, why wasn't all this stuff addressed and brought to the council so we weren't trying to discuss it again before we were going to approve the ordinance, the day we were going to approve the ordinance?
I saw this ordinance, this form that you're seeing, about 4 hours ago.
And that's true. You probably did just see it 4 hours ago, but the content of it has been out there for a long time. There were originally 2 ordinances, like I said, that were proposed, and there's not been a single change on that, any of that, other than it's blended together, other than the provision relating to framers. That's the only thing.
Okay.
And that's, and he correctly stated that relates basically to the fees.
Okay.
what the biannual fees are.
Okay, and so we don't have any continuing education for those guys, for the framers. So
Not-
basically, we've got it minimized to where all they gotta do is come in and pay a fee and they're good to go. Is that correct? They can show that they're insured and they're good to work.
They, according, I
Am I-
mean, there is no requirement for insurance for them according to this. There's nothing said.
Well, anybody that comes in here to get licensed though,
They're required to show insurance, or we don't license them, so that's just a requirement.
to me, it seems pretty minimal to come in and just get a license and go to work. And they don't have to do continuing ed or anything else. We didn't do that maybe for a reason, so we could keep those guys in town and working. Does that make sense? I feel like you're asking for more, like you want us to add more for framers. Is that what you think we should do, or?
My point is that I think the ordinance, if you're gonna add a fee for something, you know, this new guy that comes in, when he reads this, and somebody comes in and says, I need a framing license, he's gonna look at it and say, I don't know if you're I don't know what the qualifications are to give you a license. If you just add that, you don't have to have any qualifications, all you gotta do is pay your fee. Okay, fine. But this document, I don't believe, gives any guidance to whoever's trying to provide a license as to.
But it hasn't changed since the last time we looked at it, correct,
Yes,
Ryan?
well.
Other than the fee, or the added part of the framer.
The whole
That's right.
framing license category is what they're trying to add.
Okay,
Yes.
That was discussed from that last.
right,
meeting with the
that's
building
what we
trade
talked
board.
about the last time, so. But in the meantime, you never proposed anything language-wise to change that is what I think we're trying to look at, and that's what was asked of you the last time, correct?
Not exactly, but I don't know that, I guess I don't know that, I don't know whose responsibility it is to write ordinances. I don't feel like it's my responsibility to write an ordinance. If the building trades committee, if it's their responsibility, or Bill's, or Nick's, or whoever, to write an ordinance, and then it's my responsibility as a citizen to say, here's my thoughts on your proposed ordinance. I don't know that I should write the ordinance and.
I understand. We did, I believe, go to multiple other municipalities and find some comparable
Yep,
language.
Emporia, Manhattan.
And that's kind of what we based it off of, from what I've understood.
That's not correct.
That is
No,
correct.
that is correct.
It's 100% correct, Ryan.
Yes, if you, no, I would disagree with that statement. I'm sorry, it's,
I guess I'm looking for the word framing contractor in all of this. Well, it should be, which sections is
I
it in?
think we're missing 105 and 106.
Yeah, right,
There's-
that's,
You have one, I
It's
think.
not a jumping.
yeah,
I
that's.
was-
That's what I
I've been sitting here.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
I know, I know.
Straight from.
After 105, 106. Are these just the changes?
Those are
This one, Mrs. Pages too.
Well, we don't have 105 and 106 in here.
Did not
Right.
print.
No, there's
They're not here.
nothing here that says anything about framing contractors or.
Well, we got to send it to the print. I know I have it. I sent it to Ryan. He has a copy of it, obviously. So
I can check from my own file here, I can just tell you what it
Maybe
says.
some here. I didn't-
It's really brief.
it's not on there. We had to revise it because it wasn't in there.
Yeah.
And Bill had to revise it because it was
Yeah,
in there.
I guess not in there. Just take me a second, I'll tell you exactly what it says, very brief.
just section E says framing contractor.
Yeah.
Subsection 1 is master for $100 and subsection 2 is journeyman for $80.
That's right, and then subsection 3 is residential for $60. So there are three categories of terms. That's the only addition that doesn't appear in what you had.
And that's 105.
It's in 108, I think, 4-108.
108 we have.
License.
We have.
Yeah, you have 108,
For
but
building
what I'm saying is that those particular categories are probably added since the copy you have.
Okay.
Without the definition of what those are, if I send one of my subcontractors in to get a framing contractor license, I don't know how you determine which license he needs. There's just no, there's no definition of.
Well, and I understand his point. It's not, I'm not diminishing it. I'm not, because that's a good point. But this is what the committee recommended, and I think that they were probably basically wanting to create a situation where the people are identified and known to the city, so that there's a clear record on the project, who was doing the framing and that sort of thing. Up to this point, there hadn't been any requirement on framers, and I think this is sort of a kind of a half step. We'll get them identified, and in order to meet the cost of our administration of it, they'll have to pay this whole fee, which is, by the way, for 2 years, so it's annually only half as much as the, so I think that's what the committee was attempting to do. So, you know, if you want to do something more with it, you know, that's fine, we can do something more.
So we could possibly take some of that language out to where, because I do agree with Ryan that it would be difficult to identify the difference between, you know, a master and, so
Sure.
maybe we could take that down to just one qualification. Pay middle of the ground there. Is that something we could take care of, Bill?
Oh, yeah.
That'd be
We can
pretty
do
simple,
it
wouldn't it?
however you want to do it. I mean, that's
Sure.
not a.
They would mean sending it back to the building trade school then.
Well, it's been the practice, and I don't know if there's anything that requires it, but it's been the practice when one of these committees, not just building and trades, but any of the committees that you have, that if you don't adopt what they want, you send it back and let them take another fresh look at it. Now, that's happened once already. This will be the second trip back. But if that's what you want to do, well, that's certainly within the range of your ability to do it.
Thank you.
One thing I'd like to say is that this particular one is not, has not been voted on by the Building Trades Board. There was a lot of discussion just in general of what they wanted to do, but the wording or this particular ordinance is not, nobody on the Building Trades Board has seen this to vote on and say, this is what we recommend to the city council.
They wouldn't do it that way, Ryan. That's not how they would do that. That's, so they provide us with what they want in an ordinance, and then Bill puts it together and presents it to the city council, which is what was done. So we won't go back to the building trade board and say, hey, are you good with this ordinance? That's the city council's position, or say if we're okay with the recommendation made by the building trade.
How do you know whether or not they can get the intent of what the Building Trades
Just out.
This covers the intent. I mean, I was in the meeting, right? I mean, we can play this game where we interpret things one way or another. But I think Bill and I was there, and we both, me and him interpreted it the same way they did. So I don't see where the disconnect is.
That's for all of them, right? So actually,
So
this takes.
committees make recommendations for ordinances, and then it's mine and Bill's
Liability
responsibility to get
insurance.
those ordinances put together, and then we present them to the council to approve them or not approve them, which is what was done in every case that we've done in ordinance.
So, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, these are presented to us as a recommendation from the committee.
That's right.
So, I would think that our committee would agree that we would like to just get this taken care of. So my recommendation is that we would take the framing contractor for the 2-year term at $100, with everything else being followed by the guidelines here. We do away with the journeyman and the residential. I think that is that's unnecessary. We do the 2-year term at $100, and they have to provide proof of insurance just like everybody else. But I do agree with Ryan that it's hard to show proof that you're a framer, and I'm not really familiar with that. In that respect, I do agree with him, but I also think that they need to show proof of insurance. And by coming in here and paying $100, they make that commitment to the city that they've got their insurance and they're good to go for the 2 years.
I think we have other provisions in the, or in the code, don't we, Nick, that require insurance for anyone?
Yeah, we do.
So I don't know.
Yeah,
It'd be
the
kind-
reason,
it's-
so
it's the
the
same-
reason the framers got added, the issue became is that, and this is, started with Ryan, so, because he's the one here talking about it, but having people on a job site who aren't supervised doing framing, and there's not a contractor that's licensed on the job site
Okay,
approving their work. That's what this all stems from.
sure.
That's right.
So,
So the board is trying to figure out a way to have framers be supervised or licensed or insured and.
to me, once they do that, they pay that $100. We approve them as a licensed contractor. They've showed their insurance to us, and they're good.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that.
Well, they also, the other disciplines have some educational requirements too.
Was there more of that? Because the way I
In
understand.
other provisions of the,
Not for the framers?
No, not for the framers.
Well, I understand the other provisions.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. No, I understand that completely. I think the biggest thing is we can kick this to the curb by getting them to pay their fee, show that they're insured, and if they come back in 2 years and we've had issues with them in that 2 years' time, we deny that license.
And I think that was precisely the point. I think you
Yeah,
identified exactly
absolutely.
what they were trying to accomplish.
Right, and there's another mechanism, if you're a contractor and you have somebody that's not licensed or insured, you can sign them up as an apprentice under your license, and then under your license
Sure.
and your insurance. So there's ways to do it.
There is, and that, to me, that's a whole nother ball of wax we can get into, but by taking that on, and we can pull that permit at any time, pull that license at any time as well, we have that right, so I say we go ahead and amend the recommendation. Again, that's my opinion, and you guys can say yea or nay. Larry, what's your thoughts on that? I appreciate your opinion.
Just so I understand exactly what you're saying the ordinance is fine, other than it just should have a single fee of $100 for the frame.
Yeah, I don't know how we differentiate journeyman, residential,
Okay,
and
understood.
a master.
Residential.
Tell us, Larry, what do you think?
I don't see any problem with that. I think some of the concern that's been brought up over the last several months is this requirement of training hours,
Continuing education.
continuing education. The reason there is none for the building trades is because the state of Kansas does not require it.
Yeah, there is.
Their state statutes do not for the building trades. They do for mechanical, electrical, and HVAC,
Right.
not for building.
And I don't have
Our
any issue.
ordinance was copied from the state statutes.
Well, so I don't have any issue with continuing ed. I think it's probably necessary. I do it for all the other jurisdictions that I'm licensed in. So I don't have any issue with continuing ed.
Okay, well, I thought you had mentioned it.
What I take
Yeah,
issue
about
with is
framers.
that there's three categories for building contractors, A, B, and C. And so what I take issue with is that the committee recommends to you all that they think I should do continuing ed and everybody else should do continuing ed, that as a strictly a residential contractor, that they shouldn't have to do continuing ed.
Well, that's not the way it's written, the last I recall reading it.
Am I
It's on
wrong?
the books. Everyone has continuing ed except for the building contractors.
That's how it's written.
You know, not residential, not commercial.
If you look
Not
on
on the-
page, if you look on page 21.
I think he's right on that. The only thing that was not required, and it's not required by statute, just like Larry said, were the framers. The framers were the only one accepted. And I think, again, the whole point here was that we've not required anything of framers heretofore. Let's take this first step, get them identified, get them licensed, and then, you know, the next step will come as necessary.
I agree. So can I make a motion to identify that as a single, what do you think, Larry? How do you feel about it? You're the main man here, multiple years of experience.
A little late in the program for me on this one. There've been too many discussions, too many people, and I didn't attend it.
Well, I think the biggest thing is
But
we
the
take.
framing contractor, I can see the sense of just one category for a framing contractor.
And that's easy to do, and we could probably even get that printed off here in the next 5 minutes,
Sure.
if that's the only change you're proposing.
I think anything additionally, we would have to go back to the board. We can identify that for any projects here in the future, because by all accounts, with our road construction project we got some building coming. I think we identify that we're gonna have a framing contractor for a license, and they're gonna be licensed to do it, and we can move forward with it. Any changes can happen from this point forward. You guys feel the same way. So with that, I guess I'll make a motion that we accept this ordinance with the change that we remove the journeyman at $80, the residential at $60, and make it a single fee of a framing contractor at $100. And they will follow all the other guidelines of the ordinance as printed here in front of us.
So if I understand correctly, you all are okay then with them exempting themselves from continuing it, but requiring everybody else to do continuing it?
Here's what I feel like. I feel like we've approached a different problem almost every time we've been in. So this time, I think we take care of the framing contractor, and then we go back to the building trades committee on that, in my opinion. So, and I don't know who it was, and if that's the case, that's unfortunate, but as of right now, I don't think it's an issue that we can tackle without going back to them and getting that brought out in the light. So, but I do agree with you that it's not a good thing.
So what your motion is then is to eliminate, it should just be framing contractor $100.
Yes,
Yes,
that's what.
for 2
No master
years.
journeyman or residential.
That's correct.
Okay, would there be any credence, and I'm just asking this because of the language, to put framing contractors, comma, masters, comma, journeyman, comma, residential, all, to lump them all, in case there's a question?
We could do it that way. I've been playing with this while we're talking here. It's ready to go already. But I just put building or framing contractors, comma, $100.
And I think
Okay,
that's,
so that, I mean, because I don't know the language, so the framing contractor actually includes the rest of them, is what you all are saying?
yes, they're all in.
Yeah, they're just gonna be
Okay.
a single category of
That's what I
framing
need to know.
contractor, if I understand what.
One category, okay.
I'd second Sean's motion, and then I would say that, going forward, we need to take a deeper look into framing contractors, continuing ed, and that sort of thing. Find out where we're at, and if we need to do anything to get the ball rolling and get this ordinance on the books and going.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to do what Sean said. I think I better not repeat it, I might mess it up. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
And the revised ordinance number will be 2258.
What was
The
it?
revised ordinance, the number will be 2258.
2258, okay.
And I'm emailing it to you right now.
Yep, and I'll print it off and we'll get it signed after the meeting's over.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving forward. I'm ready for the office committee recommendation for the city inspector, appointment of Dan Grube. The office committee recommends the appointment of Dan Grube to city inspector at a pay rate of $22 per hour. This appointment is contingent upon passing a drug, alcohol screening, physical, and background check. Effective start date will be June 15th, 2022. And I would appreciate a motion confirming that appointment.
So moved.
Okay, second? Sharon? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay. Keith, you want to do an executive session?
At this time, I would ask to dismiss the executive session for attorney-client privilege, city-like business, to include the entire council, the mayor, city attorney, assistant city attorney, city administrator for 20 minutes.
Do you think 20 would be enough?
What do you think? You want to do 30?
Maybe we ought to go 30. We
Okay, all right.
there's
I'll
several.
amend that to 30 minutes.
So moved.
Okay. You mean seconded?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to go into executive session. Attorney-client privilege, City Lake, with the council, the mayor, the attorney, and the administrator. All those, for 30 minutes. Do you want the assistant? Did you say the assistant?
You didn't, you got everybody.
hand down, we're not ready, Jason.
Okay, all those in favor, now you can look it up. Okay, opposed, motion carries 6-0. We're ready for governing body. Jason, we'll start with you.
I don't have anything this week, Mayor.
Okay, Mark.
Thank you.
Nothing tonight.
Keith.
I'm gonna follow suit, thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Yeah, one quick thing, just the gentleman that we just hired recently for the city street department, I can't think of his name.
Wyatt Miller.
Wyatt Miller's been doing a fantastic job. I've been seeing him keep his head down and been busy all over town.
He likes to
so
work.
That was a great ad for the city. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Larry.
Only question I had, I'd seen the article in the paper on the flagpoles at Greenwood getting painted.
Mm-hmm.
What about the ones out at Sunnyslope?
That was not the city that done that. That was,
That's what I was wondering.
yeah, the city didn't do, the city supplied the paint and the rope, and Rebecca Elias and that group are the ones who did it.
Right, okay.
And then Kiwanis, I think, is redoing the little plaque.
No, Neota.
Neota, okay, yeah.
Okay, that's what I wondered, if
Yeah.
at some point they were still gonna do the poles out of
This
Sunnyslope,
has
or-
been, they've been supposed to redo them for 3 years now, and they finally did it this year, so I don't know that answer, Larry.
Okay,
I just talked to somebody this
just
morning
curious.
who's
I saw
gonna,
the arch was back up again.
Yeah,
I just asked, I didn't ask, I saw some girls this morning from Neo Club, and they're talking with Rebecca about doing those in the
Okay.
next 2 years, so,
Okay.
with American Legion, okay. So
That was-
that sort of answered the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think sure. Bill?
Nothing, Mayor, thank you.
Brian?
Nope.
Okay. I had scared you, didn't I?
We were gonna get worried if you had very little.
I've got a few things, but
Four scores.
I was waiting for it. Never mind. I don't want this job anymore.
Okay, and Nick?
I don't have anything.
I got a couple of things, I'll go fast, okay? First of all, I am concerned, I know this is crazy, I'm gonna visit just for a few minutes with the gun people to make sure they've got somebody that's checking those guns, because
They
of
do.
what's
They
happening.
do.
Sharon, you're the perfect person for me to talk to.
It's
Okay.
done very carefully.
Okay,
yes.
well,
And
you
then-
know,
And then, and Mark mentioned, they also, once they go through a certification, and then they're marked.
Yeah.
So that we know
yeah,
that they've
sorry,
done
so,
that.
I just don't want another
No.
Baldwin thing
No,
on here.
no,
Okay.
it's,
Okay, and we've talked about the safety at the schools, which I was supposed to bring up. And the other thing is Jeff Blosser was selected as the parade champion. I don't know if y'all saw that.
Grand Marshal.
Grand Marshal. The Grand Marshal, yeah.
Great.
And he was just tickled. He was tickled.
oh, that's good.
Yeah, he was really, really excited. So, and he's having a little bit of harder time, you know, with his chemo this time, so that's perfect. He needs a little.
Yes, it is.
So
I know
anyway.
he's working hard on the road north.
Oh, yeah, he is. So anyway, I wanted to tell you all to congratulate him on that.
He was a former councilman too, that's right.
He did such a good job. Christy mentioned to me that she thinks that they're getting ready to redo the grants. So she should be getting with us soon about that. And
I assume we didn't get the last one this
So
year.
the base grant, that money was intended for rural economic development, and it went to, 100 million of it went to Johnson County, Lenexa, and Butler, Wichita area. It didn't go to any rural communities because it's an election year. So all the small communities threw a fit, and they're supposedly going to do another round of that money. They had $400 million that was given to them for this program. They only spent 100 million of it. So they're supposed to be doing another round, and we found out that the city, I guess, is at the top of that list, one of the ones that would probably get funded. So hopefully they do another round, and that's the case.
Okay.
So, but it's good to hear that. I talked to her the other day, and she told me
yeah,
she
she
just
told
found
me
that
that
out.
she was checking into it to make sure, but
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
gonna make some calls. The other thing is a couple of people have come to me, groups have come to me, and I need to talk to you guys, the art council too, about maybe doing Fourth Friday flicks or something, movies at the amphitheater on the screen. So before we take that screen down from the gunslinger thing, we might check into that and see.
That would be awesome.
I was hoping
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
would get some things going
Yeah,
there.
so anyway, nobody has any problem with that, right?
Who is it that's doing it?
Well, just some different people that asked me about it, people who are interested, they'll volunteer. And we're talking, you know, maybe about doing it like $1 or $2 entry fee, just so some of that money can be funneled back into the amphitheater. And somebody sell, you know, get different groups to sell popcorn and pop and
The
stuff.
projection is the problem.
Yeah, I think we can take care of that. Any more of the projectors or, you know, all those new stuff, just like these.
You guys rented it out for,
Yeah.
what's the
Well,
one?
we've got to come up with something for the movie here, so.
Yeah.
um,
Maybe that'll
give us some
help. Well, I approached a company out of Kansas City that does,
Okay.
so I don't know, they weren't very helpful as far as
Okay.
coming here to do it.
Okay.
So I think though that,
Well, we need to find one that we can rent though.
well, yeah, and definitely, I think there's several organizations in the
How big
community we
is
could
the
apply
screen?
for a grant and
Huge.
buy a nice one to have for the Arts Council.
I was
think
gonna
that would
say,
be great.
it would be,
Yeah.
it may be even
Down there,
city.
it's one of these for,
Yeah, that would be
You know,
a
if
great
we look
option.
at
Yeah.
those every month, that's something that really good use to
It takes up,
that.
Absolutely.
Good family fun.
Wires
Well,
the stage.
there's nothing I hear more than
20 to
there's
30
nothing to do
foot
here
tall.
for teenagers.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, so
So Ferris Bueller's Day Off and some of those old fun movies,
absolutely.
because they gotta be a little cheaper movies, we can't afford them.
Not like
Well,
that.
not yet, not
Very
till-
Be careful what you're teaching your teenagers.
Yeah.
What did you say?
I don't think that movie's very old at all there.
Well, I tend to agree with you, but hey. What did you say, Brian?
I said, you want to be careful what you're teaching your teenagers.
I kind of agree with that. Yeah, you're gonna have some PG-13 or something on there, so, anyway, but, nobody has any problem with that. I don't even think we need to vote on it, I think we're all ready to use that. Okay, anything else? Okay,
Make a motion, we leave.
okay. Second, all in favor? Yeah. Opposed? No, you're not opposing.
I have a list of questions.
Thank you all.
Thank you.